So you've probably created your first social media strategy and you're feeling pretty good about yourself, right? You're like, I nailed that. I know exactly what I'm doing with my social media now. I've got an action plan. Let's freaking go. And then fast forward a couple of months and you realize that strategy is no longer working for you. First of all, you're not alone. This happens to so many business owners, and this is exactly what I'm going to be unpacking in today's episode of the Dishing Up Digital podcast. There will come a shift in your business when you really change from a growth-focused social strategy into a sales-focused social strategy. If we flash back to when I first started my business, growth and exposure was really paramount for me. I was a new social media manager and I really needed to make sure I was getting my services in front of as many people as possible to sell and to also just grow my brand. And with that, I've had so many incredible opportunities that have come my way in terms of sponsorship deals, partnerships. I've launched new digital products and I've built a multi-six-figure empire. And the foundation of that was building my community and building my brand. Don't get me wrong, I love followers. I love seeing my follow count increase. That is totally normal. That is a normal human thing to like. And it does, correlate to growth in your business. But at the end of the day, if you want a sustainable long-term business, you are going to have to pivot your social media strategy at some point to focus on sales. Now, the structure that I really like in my business is I almost have different seasons now. I will have a season that's all about growth building and brand awareness, and then I'll have seasons in my business that are more focused on sales. Like I'll have certain launch periods. And for a lot of businesses, you might have this as seasonal launches, and you might have things like Black Friday or summer sales, winter sales, that kind of thing. And what you want to be doing is constantly adjusting your strategy depending on your goals and what it is that you want to achieve, and also adjusting depending on those seasonal times in your business. Now, what I really want to do today is lock in on what your strategy will look like during a sales period. Arguably, you can have a strategy that ticks off both of these goals. You can have a strategy that's for community building, and you can have a strategy that is for creating sales in your business. They're not mutually exclusive. However, for the benefit of this video and really getting into the nitty-gritty of sales strategy, we're going to focus on that one. And I will say, as a business owner, it can be really difficult if you have multiple top priority goals. So again, in my business, I have seasons. I'll have seasons where the top goal is growth and building my community. And then I'll have seasons where that goal actually just moves down in the list of priorities and the priority instead becomes sales. So I will still have sales content sprinkled in during a season of my strategy where I'm focused on community growth. It's not that it's one way or the other, but I think for clarity purposes as a business owner, it's really good to look at your calendar year or look at your quarter and plan out when you're going to have those big sales pushes. And the reason I wanted to record this is I've actually just come off the back of a launch for the Dishing Up Digital School, which is my program for social media managers. And I thought we could kind of dissect my content on Instagram and what I shared during this time period of a more sales heavy season and how I adjusted my strategy to make it more sales focused. I love these kind of episodes where we get into the nitty-gritty of strategy. And I'm literally, if you're going to watch this on YouTube, which I would recommend, I'm going to screen share now and bring up my Instagram so you can literally see what I've been posting and the changes that happened in my strategy. So the first thing I want to point out is perhaps how my bio might change when I am more focused on a sales strategy. At the moment, you can see it's set up with Ellen McKenzie, corporate escapee, freedom-based business owner, helping social media managers quit the 9-to-5, 900 plus clients and students, CEO at McKenzie Studios and at Dishing Up Digital. And that last section is often what I'll rotate out during a sales period. And I'll put a stronger call to action there. I'm a big fan of social proof and call to actions in your Instagram bio. So for me, at the moment, just having CEO, McKenzie Studios, Dishing Up Digital, it's like very soft. It's not telling people where to go. During launch periods, I'll often switch that out to be like 4 spots available in the Dishing Up Digital School. Or, I'm not really limited on spots anymore. We have like a rolling enrollment, but I might have March promo ending in 4 days, and I might update that countdown every single day. And a lot of people forget about their bio, especially when it comes to updating your social media strategy. People do it once and then they never touch it again. And that is a mistake, my friends, because your bio is hot real estate and you want to make sure that is optimized for whatever your goal is at the time. And for us, it's sales, so we want to be optimizing that. Obviously, I'm now looking at my page like after going through a sales promo period, so it's just looking pretty the same. But the other thing I will do is utilize my highlights over here. So you'll see that I have a highlights page all about the Dishing Up Digital School, and it's just a whole bunch of testimonials, it's little snippets and pieces about the course more in depth. It is a massive highlight, so I know not everybody will watch this, but it just really enables people who are interested to go on a little bit of a rabbit hole into understanding the course and program, and it helps a lot of people decide if they want to invest without actually having to direct message me. That happened a lot during this launch, and that was a really key indicator to me that my marketing messaging was on point because I wasn't getting those questions in my DMs. People were just buying. I always make sure during a launch that highlight is at the top, like that is the first one people are going to see. And again, if I'm more in a growth period, I would have that highlight to be my journey or welcome or start here, and I would optimize it with some freebies or, little things about my journey to get people to get to know me and build that community more. Now, the next thing as part of your profile setup to optimize for sales is obviously your pinned posts. And again, my pinned posts at the moment are a little meet the founder, a little snapshot on 4 steps to making $100,000 as a social media manager. And then I do have as my third pinned post something that I published during my launch period, which is a bunch of student testimonials in a graphic carousel. So that was pinned during my launch, and I've left it there because, again, we can sprinkle a little bit of sales strategy even if we're not in like a sales period, because we still want to be consistently making sales for our business. We're just talking about those big boosts from launches and seasonal campaigns. But before I had those pinned there, during the actual promotion, I had a couple of these posts pinned in there. So I had a free webinar and a little snippet, a soundbite from that. And then I had some carousel posts. Now, the mistake here is people will often just pin whatever post has the most likes or engagement on it. We are not doing that. Like, we are not following that basic social media strategy in 2025. We are making sure that the posts up there are actually leading people into a sales funnel. So that was the intention of the free webinar, and showing people a soundbite of that to be like, ooh, listen to this webinar. Wouldn't you love to hear more? Comment webinar and I'll send you the replay. And then the other 2 posts, it just so happened one had performed really well. I boosted it for a little bit and then it just continued to perform really well organically. I think I only spent like $50 on it. So I was in a way able to what is the saying? Kill 2 birds with 1 stone. There we go. It's kind of an aggressive saying, but I was able to showcase my sort of social proof, being like, look how popular my content is, look how many people resonate with this. But more importantly, that carousel is also leading people to that live webinar. And the pieces of text in this carousel have been especially chosen to invoke an emotion with my audience. It's really understanding what they're going through and what they're struggling with and kind of relating to them. And that is what's going to provoke them to take a little bit of action as well if they feel like this post resonates with them. And my intention with the sales strategy was to funnel as many people as I could to my free webinar, because that was where I could really teach, showcase my talents, give them a look at the Dishing Up Digital School, and also allow them to experience what it's like to hire me as their coach. So that was my strategy. Yours could be a little bit different. I have done flash sales in the past where the content is literally like, go buy my template bundle or sign up for my mastermind or sign up for my private coaching. So you can be a little bit more like sign up. But for me, at least my pinned posts were trying to get people to my webinar. And then I had the testimonials for the Dishing Up Digital School. So if I were to compare that to my content and say January, like a lot of my January and even like February content, I still have funnels running. You know, I have this post here, which is comments webinar to sign up for my free 60-minute masterclass. And that was a pre-recorded one. But on a whole, I'm doing just a lot of like sharing my opinions, sharing little things like freebies that I think will be useful. I did like a little video revamping my office. And if I actually go through these, I don't think I have any call to actions for the Dishing Up Digital School. No, I didn't. We're still going through. No. Yeah, so I'm just trying to create conversation. And where that contrasts with when I entered my launch period, number one, we start putting on every single post, like come to the free live webinar, you're gonna love it. But then we also start to see these longer captions like this. This is where I've tagged a whole bunch of my students and shared little testimonials from the course. And this is also when I go into a bit of a hard sale. I'm listing all of the benefits of signing up for our March bonus, where students could get 4 weeks of voice messenger support from me and also a private coaching call as well as a discount. So I'm getting into the nitty gritty. I'm packing each post with social proof, even if, for example, this reel is just a montage of me living my best life as a social media manager, a classic Ellen montage. But I'm packing each caption with social proof, with information for my audience. This is another great example of how my strategy just starts to change just slightly with my content. This is a time lapse of me creating a social media strategy for a client. And I talk in depth, like here's what's in the strategy session, here's what we focused on for the client. But you'll notice that there's quite strong call to actions at the bottom of this post now. Instead of just being like, let me know your thoughts, or hey, do you want to grab one of my freebies? I'm now going, hey, this is in my template bundle. And also you'll find it in the Dishing Up Digital School. Did I mention that we actually have a March promo on at the moment, which includes $1,000 of bonuses and savings? Like you can see that slight change. It's so minor. But the thing is, when you are working on developing a sales-focused social media strategy, you need to be repetitive as hell. Like you need to be putting in every single caption, PS or PSA, or have you heard the news? Or, oh my gosh, I can't wait to share this with you guys. You need to be really hyping up your promotion, your sale, your product, your service, and just saying it again and again and again. Because I had been promoting this for an entire month and I still got to the end of the month where someone messaged me going, what is your March promo? And I'm like, girl, where have you been? Have you been living under a rock? Because I've been talking about this non-stop for weeks. But that is the reality of the algorithm, both on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, whatever platform you are on, you need to be repetitive because not every follower or subscriber is going to see every single piece of your content. And you might be shying away thinking like, oh, I can't possibly put up another caption about my product or my service or my offer because I've already done 2 posts this week and people are going to think I'm gross and sleazy and just trying to sell to them all the time. We want to leave that thought, that mindset at the door because that is just you self-sabotaging, my friend. Because in reality, let's use Susan from Tikawiti as an example. She has seen my content and she hasn't read the full caption. She didn't see that PSA about the Dishing Up Digital School. And then she sees another post on another day, but she's really busy and she runs out the door and she doesn't actually read it. Then she might see my Instagram stories a week later and be like, oh, actually, what is this promotion that Alan's running? And she might think, yeah, I quite like that. I think I want to become a social media manager. I think I want to sign up for the Dishing Up Digital School, but she doesn't take the leap yet. Imagine if I just stopped posting because I wasn't getting any sales, right? We can come back to the very classic traditional marketing rule of 7. This is something that I've talked about quite a bit on the podcast. It is nothing new. It has been around since like we created newspapers and the advertising world was kind of born. The marketing rule of 7 basically is saying that we need to show a customer our product or our service 7 times before they're actually going to purchase. And a lot of marketing specialists are now arguing that in this day and age, we actually need to show someone something 12 times before they purchase. So it's actually increasing because there's an overwhelm of information and content that people are consuming every single day. So if you take away one lesson only from this video, it's that you are not talking about your service or your offer or your product enough on social media. You need to be so repetitive and you need to get creative presenting your sale, your sales message in different formats. So again, if we come onto my Instagram, I have voiceover vlogs. I have a live stream that I did on our cart close day where I just chatted, I answered questions, like again, another fun format people can join. And no, I didn't have a huge amount of people show up for my live stream, but I knew that small portion would be the people who would be on the fence of buying, so I did it. I've done like a still photo post. I've done a video from a snapshot from one of my coaching sessions. So it feels like people are on a call with me. I've done some funny, like more lip syncy style, trendy indie reels. I've done the classic B-roll with some text on top. And then again, like I mentioned, I had the photo carousel with reviews and screenshots from my students and their experience in the Dishing Up Digital School. And I tried to present that in a little bit of a different way rather than just writing out a testimonial. I used screenshots of messages and DMs. And one thing you'll notice here as I'm going through these posts, a lot of them don't have crazy engagement. Like I think my best performing post last month was this one about I just need to put up a post as a social media manager. I was quite chuffed with it if you do want to go check that out. And it's just me having a little bit of fun. And that one doesn't have a call to action on it. When it comes to posting on social media with sales content, you need to remember that this is content targeted at the bottom of the funnel, like the small portion of your audience that is ready to purchase or is on the fence and about to purchase. And that doesn't mean that all, 17,000 of my Instagram followers are actually interested in this offer. And you know what? I don't need all of them to be interested. I just need 8 of them to be interested and I can still have a multi-5-figure month. And coming back to this reel that I showed you earlier of me talking a little soundbite from one of my live streams that I put up as an example of like, hey, this is what it's like to do a group coaching call with me, and this is what you'll get access to in the Dishing Up Digital School. This post only has 55 likes. Like that is really low performing for me. If we open up the analytics, it hit 85% of existing followers, 14%, or 85% of the views, I should say, and interactions were existing followers, 14% non-followers. We had a couple of saves, a couple of shares, no profile activity, no follows. So all in all, some people might look at that and be like, that's a dud piece of content, Ellen. But I know that's actually a key sales piece of content. And I understand sometimes that the sales heavy content isn't going to get the crazy spikes of engagement. Now, of course, there's a few exceptions. I've had videos on my template bundle that have performed really, really well. And, technically that's me selling my template bundle. But in general, I'm always going to say that if you're in a very sales heavy focused time in your business, prepare yourself a little bit mentally for perhaps a little bit of a drop in engagement and remind yourself that that is normal. And especially after we've watched Instagram evolve over the past few years, we have kind of seen a bit of audience fatigue when it comes to selling on social media. And again, this is where you've got to get a little bit creative with the different content formats, the different call to actions. Ooh, this was actually a post I didn't show you. I did this carousel on how to become a social media manager in 30 days. And again, prime example of just mixing things up a little bit, having some engaging photos, having lots of valuable text. It's quite a long carousel, so I'm experimenting with a different kind of longer post for people to get through. And then it's got a call to action right in the last slide. But that one has done really well in terms of engagement. And I love that. And that's awesome. And, I love to get my offer in front of more people. But I think there's a lot of businesses who are being too hard on themselves and they're struggling to find that balance between the sales strategy and the growth strategy. And I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I do want to say, sometimes you can't have it all with every single post. Sometimes your post will get 250 likes and sometimes it will get 50. And again, some of you listening might be like, damn, Ellen, I wish I could get 50 likes. Everybody's at a different stage in their journey. And I think overall, we're just too hard on ourselves as business owners with social media at the moment. You have to really manage that mindset during launches like this and make sure you're not letting that slow engagement or maybe slow sales in the beginning of your launch put you off from posting. Because the other thing you want to know about sales strategy is often the purchases will come in the last 24 hours of your promotional period. So you really want to make sure you push through to the end, even if it doesn't feel like you're making a lot of progress. This happened to me with a particular promotion for the Dishing Up Digital School 2 years ago now that really stands out to me. It was the first time I ran a live accelerator. And I was so nervous because I hadn't done that structure before and I'd put up the price for it as well. And it was like crickets. I had 2 people sign up and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so slow. And then a couple of days went by and I get slowly one more person and then one more person after another couple of days. So I think I was sitting around 5 people and I was like, you know what, that's okay. This is still going to be a great little accelerator and still got a great group of people. I went to bed one night and I woke up the next morning and I had 6 people sign up overnight. I doubled our enrollment overnight, and it just blew my mind. And it was because that was the last day that we were open for enrollment for that accelerator. And that was a really important lesson for me to learn 2 years ago with my sales strategy, to be like, okay, don't let my self-consciousness or my self-doubts take control, and stick to your strategy. And this is where, you guys will know I've done a lot of videos on YouTube here around how to build a social media strategy. I know our podcast episode on creating a social media strategy is the most downloaded episode. And I'm always encouraging you to write out your strategy and have like a set posting schedule, a set amount of pieces of content that you want to be sharing, and a set routine, a time of day that you're posting, days of the week that you're posting. Because when you give yourself that structure, it's a lot harder to kind of slip out the side door during like a launch when you're not getting the results that you want, when your post isn't performing or you're not getting the sales yet. You need to have a strict sales strategy, social media strategy in place, and stick to it. Now, I am actually recording this a little bit in advance. I'm batching some content because I'm heading away on holiday. I know I'm going away again. I was literally on an international holiday in January, but this is why I became a social media manager, okay? I love to travel, and we bought a house last year. So we were really, tied up our credit cards, and we weren't allowed to spend any money on travel. So this year we're just really enjoying it. But we are going to South Africa, where my boyfriend is from. So we're going back to visit his family. We're taking a couple of our friends from New Zealand. It's their first time in South Africa. So it's going to be a really awesome trip. And I'm batch recording some content before I leave. And I would love for you guys, when you're watching or listening to this, come have a look at my profile and try guess if I'm in a sales period or like a promotional period where I am really leaning into a heavy sales strategy with my social media, or if you think I'm on a community building strategy at the moment. I think it would be a really interesting test to see if you guys have been paying attention in this episode. And the concluding thoughts that I really wanted to leave you with after this episode is your strategy is going to change over time. And that's really normal as a business owner. And you don't want to create one strategy and have that set in stone. You want it to be a little bit fluid depending on your goals, because your goals are probably going to change in business. So I'm going to wrap up this episode here. I hope you've enjoyed it. I could honestly talk about social media strategy all day, and it is ever changing. I'm always learning new things. I'm always seeing or experiencing new things with my own socials or with my clients. And I would love it if you could subscribe to the podcast, whether you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or whether you're watching on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button, hit that follow button, because we upload new episodes every Monday, although I will be taking a brief little break after my holiday. So stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, jump over and say hi on Instagram. If you have any requests for podcast episode, I'd love to hear those as well. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. Bye.